Good morning, everybody. Start was a bit funny this morning. I don't know what happened there. Something strange. But we occasionally get these glitches. So we've had a little bit of a play with the sound. So if you have an issue with the sound, please let me know. If it's all good, we'll see how we go. So anyhow, we've fiddled around with it. We're actually trying to change our microphone system, but yeah, we couldn't quite get it right. And so anyway, in the process, Derek says audio is great. Okay, well, obviously problem solved. So anyhow, if you do have an issue, please let us know. Okay, today, where were we up to? I've forgotten what we're going to do. Oh yes, we're back to this. Yeah. Now, I've done a couple of little things. What I did is, and this is something that during your process of planning, you're going to make lots of different mistakes. You're going to make lots of different things to do. You're going to do little prototypes and things. And that's what I've done. I've built a little prototype of the shelf. Now, it's not quite right because it's not exactly what I want to do. It's the right shape, but my measurements are a little bit out. So what it does, it actually sits in like this. And during the process of doing this little prototype, I've worked out some of the issues. Now, somebody said to me a little while ago that when you're making something, you should plan it all first and then build it according to your plan. Well, that's all fine, but sometimes you need to make a prototype to actually work out if you've got your plan right. And so that's what I've done there. So what we have is we have these rebates in here, and I've cut them out, and then I've cut out a bit of shape to it just to give it a bit of class. And the way it works, I think I've shown you this before, is you have to lift the glass and then drop it into a tapered hole in the middle there. Now, over the course of making this rebate, I broke about 4 of them because I wasn't doing it in the correct order. I wasn't actually building things the way they should be done. So basically, because I was experimenting. So anyway, I've eventually ended up with this one here, which is pretty close to the shape that I'm going to create today. But there was an order that I had to do things. So that's what I'm going to sort of work through now. So as you can see, I'll just pull this out again. As you can see, just come in on this one, Pammy. As you can see, my grain runs along here. It runs this way. So any strong work that I might do here could give this or weaken this, particularly if you've got a piece of material that's got a light crack in it or something like that, and you'll end up snapping that off halfway through the process. So it's the order that I've worked out is, first of all, we need to drill the hole. Now, we did that last week. So we drilled the holes, and they were 16mm holes. We also cut the step in the front edge, so we got that done as well. So while everything is supported, we could do those small things. And now what we need to do is we need to taper that hole. Now we need to taper the hole because it's got to taper the shape or recreate the shape of the stem of our glass. So in your planning, you've got to sort of look at some of these things that have different anomalies. So we've got to deal with that as well. So finding something that I could taper that hole with was a bit of a drama as well. And I spent a whole week and a half chasing around looking for something to do it with, and there's no such thing as a 16 or 18mm tapered drill bit that I could find, that I could get quickly from our local stores. So I had to sort of implement a little bit, and this is what I've come up with. So we've drilled our holes, and we just go over to the drill press, and over on our drill I have a tapered burr. It's quite a large one, and that's what we're going to use to taper the hole. So this is how we go about that. So now the idea is to do this first so that we've got lots of support around it, so that we can actually clamp things down and we're not going to break off little bits. So my first thing is to set that in the centre. I've got a clamp here. Now, important that we actually clamp that into place. You can see my baseboard is actually clamped down as well, so everything's nice and tight. It's always a good idea to be a little bit safe. We don't want this to move at all. What we want to do is just get it cramped in so that it's, just check to see that I've got that right. Okay, so we cramp down there. Just want to make sure that's not going to go anywhere. Now, go slowly with this. I might put another clamp on that.
Sound's a shocker.
Sound is a bit of a shocker, but
Can't be helped.
can't be helped. I'll just put, and I've got to do both of them, both holes, so I'll do the first one. That might better. See what happens now. Sounds a bit ordinary, doesn't it? It still worked okay though. Now I just need to do the other one. That's the problem with burrs. They don't actually drill like a normal drill bit, and as you can hear, that one's sounding very, let's get this in the right place, so a bit of a fiddle around. The squeaking sound is actually the burr rubbing on the material underneath the piece that's on our backboard. Okay, so this one's going to squeak a little bit, so head on. That was a little bit ordinary, wasn't it? But the job's done, and the job is actually quite a nice job. So
That's how I feel when I hear that noise.
so as you can see, I've got them a little larger. Needed a bit of a dressing up, but they're fine. And they were supported underneath, so there's no tear out in the back of it. And they're tapered. Now our next step is to cut out sections there so we can slide it over the glass. So we need to know the size of that. So easy enough to do is to get a pair of verniers out. And just measure the size of that. I better turn them on. And we've got 14 millimetres, which is about, I think, about where they're going to be. So let's put that up there. This is going to go into here. So it's about there. Which is 14 millimetres. Okay. So from my centre line, I'll measure 7 millimetres either way. So if I rule it, a square. So 7 millimetres either side of my centre line. I only need to mark one. I'll show you why in a sec. Okay, you can see I still have a little bit of circle here. I have still a little bit of circle there, and I'm going to remove that bit in the middle there. So if I take that piece out, and then we can do our shaping of the piece as we go along. So I need to do that on this end and on that end. So over to the bandsaw. So Pammy's going to go for a wander around the back there and get the camera from the other side. Okie doke. And so make sure you do this nice and square. And I just want to take, I'm not going to take it all out, I'm just going to take it inside my line. Now if you drilled all your holes in the correct place, this hole is the same as that hole. Just going to take a little bit less than 7 mil. Just lock that in place so it doesn't move. Okay, ears on. Now the other side is easy enough. You just turn it over. That should be identical. Now I'll readjust the fence. Readjust the fence, he says. You've got to readjust it. Okie doke. Same technique. And so what we have is we have the two holes are identical now. and we've got a little bit of meat on the outside. You can see there's more meat on the outside than there is on the inside. That's because I want enough in there so that I've got plenty of support when I shape the outside of this. Right, now back to our bench. I'll give Pammy time to get back to the bench. If you look now, now don't forget that you need to make sure, remember we're planning here, you need to make sure that you record what you just did. Okay, so that doesn't quite go in there. Put that on. It doesn't quite go in there yet, so I've got a little bit of work to do. That's not such a bad thing. It's a tiny little bit tight, but it is in the right place. So that's a good thing. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to shape this shape. So as you can see, it's a matter of taking away this extra material that's here. Right. Now, in some of our earlier shows, you'll have seen me make a jig to shape the top of a box lid, or shape the sides of a little trinket box or something like that. You've seen that I've made a number of different types of jigs, and this is no different. So we have to develop a different jig. Now this is the one that I made for this. It's just a piece of MDF with a right angle glued to it, or screwed to it I should say, and you can see on the top of it, you can see I've got a very definite shape where I've cut it out and filed it and got it nice and smooth. And the important thing was to remember that everything had to be perfectly smooth and everything had to be perfectly lined up to be able to get that particular shape that we have there. Right? So it was just a matter of building the jig, and we work on the top edges. Now remember, if we start cutting against the grain, which we cut up this way here, there's more than likely a chance you're going to split your piece of timber all the way along. So doing it this way, the way I'm doing it now, we're only going to work on this section here and this section here, and then we're going to flip it over, and we're going to work on this section here and this section here, and that will give us identical shapes on both ends, hopefully. So that was the idea behind it. That's the way it's done. And in your designing and your processing, what you should be doing is setting up for or writing down all that information, which I do occasionally. Well, most of the time I do it anyway. For this exercise we will be doing it, and then when it comes to drawing the proper drawing and doing our information at the final bit, we're going to
That's an A10 straight cutter, isn't it?
Yes, yes, that's correct. Pammy just asked, this is an A10 straight cutter. That's exactly what it is. I tend to use it for all of this sort of processing. I don't have any other router bits that I can use for it, but this one will do the job. And all I'm doing there is I'm going to run the router bearing along here, and I'm going to shift up and I'm going to run along here, okay, and that will remove the material from there and from there. So, and we're working with the grain. Okay, so ears on everybody. A little bit at a time. Flip it over. So now we have quite a nice little shape. Now, when you think about this, where could you use that technique on a piece of furniture or a small box or a little cabinet or something like that? Think about that as you're doing those sorts of things. And at the moment, my mind's going like mad because I can think of something that I could use that for straight away. So the idea, it could be used for lots of other different things as well. All right, so now we're at that stage there. Let's bring the other one over. This is our demo one. So you'll also see now I've got a rounded over surface on the top edge. I haven't rounded over the bottom, but we could do if you wanted to. But I'm only going to round over the top edge. And the important thing to remember with this, and it's just a very, very important thing to remember, is don't try and take the whole lot off at once. Little bits. You noticed how I started on the corner and I just worked my way and took away small amounts. That's a safest and best way to do it. If you want to put a dog lock on there, by all means do so that it's clamped down. I find that I can hold them quite steadily. But if you think that you need a dog lock, by all means build one to fit on there like I have on some of my other larger sort of jigs. So safety is very, very important here, particularly when you've got your router bit stuck up like that. Okay, now rounding over. In our kit of router bits, we have a rounding over bit. That's that little guy there. That's the one that we sell. You can buy it in our kit or you can buy it individually. And all I'm going to do is use that to round over the edge. And I'm going to use this one as my gauge. Just want to round that over so that it just takes the edge, the sharpness off the front edge of it. So the tip of my router bit, so that tip there, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, can you? Yeah, that tip there is flush with the top edge of here. Okay, so that tip is flush with the top edge of there. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run over that. Now, just go very steadily with this, so you don't need to rush at it. Ears on, everybody. You'll notice that I did each little part individually. So this bit I did individually, that bit I did individually, and that bit individually. I didn't jump off the end there because I want nice sharp corners here, which I'm going to tidy up with sandpaper later. But that's generally the shape that I try to sort of create. And then it's just a matter of a little bit of sandpaper. You can see it's just burnt a little bit there, which isn't a drama. Just give it a bit of a tidy up. Because when you're coming up this way, you're actually going against the grain there, and you're going with the grain there, so you're going to get a different cut here that you would from there. You can see the same has happened here, so we've come against the grain and we've cut up the hill rather than down the hill, and that is different to that. So it's just a matter of tidying that up a little bit. And that's how it's going to fit with the glass. And you can see when you get them both together, they actually look quite nice. So that's going to fit in there quite nicely. So the taper actually works. Sometimes you'll have an anomaly with the glasses where the way they're made, you get different diameters in here, little bits and pieces like that. Sort of sometimes sort of play with your mind when you're actually working with your gear. So that's that. And that will fit around this way. Now I have to take a little bit off the diameter of this in here, because where it's set there, I actually can't fit the glasses in just yet. It's just a matter of a little bit of adjustment. And it doesn't quite fit in there, so because of where it touches up the top here. But that's okay. I'd rather be taking it off than trying to put it back on. So it's going to fit in the right place. Okay, so they'll fit into there. So it's just a tiny little bit to be taken out, not very much at all, and that way it'll work. Okay, any questions? Oh, hang on. So, as you can see, it's starting to come together really nicely. So what I'll do is I'll go over to the vise now, and I'll just tidy up those and get that, take a little bit off that. I could do it on the bandsaw, but I won't. I'll just use the file and I'll just round it over. So over to the vise. So if you go that way, Penny. What I have is just have a straight file here. I'm just going to file a little bit off it. Bring it over the other way. At the moment I'm just using a flat file. I should go and get the glasses, eh? Trial and error. Okay, just a little bit more. This is where that delicate, soft touch that everybody has comes in handy. Some of us with big, meaty hands generally don't have a delicate, soft touch. I'm told it's a learned skill.
Beautiful.
It worked. Okay, so now I've got it fitting in there just nicely. So all I have to do now is get the other one fitted. Okay, so then I've got both of them in. I just need a little bit more. And it's starting to look like it belongs there. And before I glue all this together, I need to make sure that this is completely sanded all around. A little bit more off that one, I think. So just take your time with this, there's no need to rush. Remember, you're in a planning process. And I'm just judging by eye. We've got the same amount of material off both sides. Not quite. Just a little bit more. My judgment's out a tiny bit today. Now, whatever you take off the one side, you've got to take it off the other side as well, so make sure it's even. I'm not using a lot of pressure on this because if I push down hard on it, I'm going to find that we'll end up just not quite there. Just got to work out which one needs the work. I think I need to take it off this one. Just little bits at a time. There we go. That's spot on. Okay, back to the bench. Make sure we don't drop that. Okay, so Pammy's doing a little walk around there. And glass number 2. Now, the reason, whoop, I better come over here. The reason that I went so delicately with that file out was we don't want the glass to fall out unless we actually have to physically take it out. So to physically take it out, we've got to actually lift it, and we don't want it sliding out through there. And remember, I talked about the amount of meat we had left around the edge of the circle once we did our rebate. So that, to me, fits just perfect. It's just flush there, basically ready to glue together, which I'm not going to do at this stage. I think I might leave that until after hours or something like that and go from there. So we're pretty much done with that. I'll just have to now go through getting the process written up. So now back to here. Now this was our drawing before. I can use my demo for this. Whoop, gosh, that bounced. What I need to do is I need to add some information. So that information, first of all, I need a diameter of the circle. So that my diameter here ended up at 16 mil at the top and 14 mil at the bottom. That was the taper. So if I put a line through here, little arrow on there, little arrow on there, and I can write on here 16 mil. I can do it in millimetres, or I can do the proper symbol, which is that one there. So actually I have to get a pen because we couldn't read that last time. Might be able to see this a bit better. And normally this mark is set at 45 degrees across the circle, but we don't have enough room on the page for that. And remember, this page is just the information stuff that we're going to use to draw up our final plan when we get it done. Okay, 16 mil. Bottom edge. Is 14 mil diameter. Okay, so the top edge and the bottom edge. So I've got that done. The next bit is to work out the distance across there, which worked out to be 14 mil. I think I said that before. So if I just put a line through here, I'm going to do that with a pencil. Now what we want here is, I only want the information. So if I just put in a line like this and a line like that, make sure it's even. And I can draw this in. It's very important that you get all this information correct. My distance here, my distance there. Mil. And then it's just a matter of a shape. Probably about there, something like that. Remember, this is only information. It doesn't have to be perfectly accurate at this stage. And then we're going to remove this material. Do the same on the other side. Okay, so now we've got a bit of a diagram with some different measurements. So we can put in some measurements here if we want. So what is the measurement there? What measurement do we have? Here, 20 millimeters. Okay, so I can put that in as well. From there to there. You can see we're starting to build ourselves a really nice looking plan, and we're starting to get a fair bit of detail on there as well. So you need to have all those sort of information there so that when you come to do your proper drawing and set it all up, you've got your pages. So the distance from here to here.
Totally not to scale.
Totally not to scale at this stage. Remember, it is only, it's also 20 mil. So you can see we're actually starting to get a fairly detailed plan. And then when we do it to scale, all of these little bits of information that we have on the page and all of this sort of stuff is there for you to go back over it. Now, because you've done a couple of demonstrations, a couple of prototypes, you've got all this information available so that you can draw up your plan. And here we have the plan of that as well. You can sit down and start doing a parts list. Now I've done my parts list here, and as you can see, I've got two sides, which are the two sides on the box, two ends of the box, the back panel of the box, the foot plate, the shelf plate, and then the only thing we have to do now is to organise ourselves a door. So we've basically got all of those parts made, and that result is what you can see there. Incidentally, the back of it is this part here. So in the back you're going to have that panel. Okay, so that'll go in there like that. So as you can see, it's starting to become a real object in our finished object. So a little bit by little bit, and you can see a little bit of fancy stuff. We've got to sand all the inside of that up, and then we'll glue the whole lot together as soon as we've got it sanded up. So that's where we're at this stage. Now, if in your prototype you don't particularly like the shape of it, the colour of the timber, or something else has gone wrong, then the idea is to change it. You've got the information for the sizes because you've been doing that right through the whole process. You've been putting together the information that's necessary to build your plan. So change it using these plans, and then if there's any other modifications that you need to do, you haven't got a hard copy that you have to rearrange as yet. So get it done before you actually get the hard copies done. Now our doors, this is the door off a smaller one that we're going to do. I'll just put that aside for a sec. Now this is the smaller one, a single glass cabinet that I made. A lot of the design features that I have off this one are the design features I have on that one. Only that one's a dual job. And if I take one of the glasses out of here, you can see that fits in there pretty good. And this one's jacaranda and walnut, and I'm going to have a jacaranda door which will look like that on the front of it. Now, it's a bit grubby at the moment, but that's what the door is going to look like on the front of it. So once I've got the door done, it will look quite nice.
Just turn it sideways so we can see the walnut.
You see the walnut is a beautiful coloured timber. You can see it highlights the dovetails, so they're showing up very, very nicely on the side of the box. So it looks quite nice. So Okay, now our door is 10mm material, and it has a piece of perspex in the middle of it, and all I have here is a number of different bridle joints and a rebate down the middle, or as Skip or John Parra would say, a rabbit. Although Skip said he was going to start using rebate. Now what I also want to do is I want to cut a little curve in the top of that there, so that it matches up to the curve in there, and because we've got round glasses and all that sort of stuff, so I want added a bit of round feature to the outside. So when I've cut the rebate in here, this one here is much deeper than the bottom one. That's only 5mm, and this one here is 10mm. So be careful about how you put that together, so that when you do put it together, everything will fit together.
Cole, Skip wants to know, is jacaranda a hardwood? If so, what is it similar to?
Ooh, jacaranda, a bit similar to silver ash. Probably not as hard as silver ash, Skip. I don't know if you get silver ash or jacaranda. Jacaranda trees are actually really, really nice. They're purple, they've got purple flowers, and we here in Australia, Skip, have a jacaranda festival in Grafton.
Which is just north of us.
Which is just north of us, and we've found that the timber is actually really good for doing this stuff here. It's stable. I don't know if I've got a piece here in board form. There's a wide board of jacaranda. It's quite thin, but you can see it's got beautiful colour. The grain is really, really nice. This one here is a bit of sapwood, or towards the sappy edge of the tree. I prefer to use quarter sawn, but you can see it's quarter sawn around the outside edges. So not a very big tree, but it's come up with a nice piece of timber out of it, and something that will look nice once I've got a finish on it.
It's a great colour.
You can see what it looks like when you put a finish on it. There's the back of it. So it's quite a nice colour, and that's what it looks like before I put the finish on. So it'll get sanded up and look really nice, and it matches up too. Incidentally, this is American walnut, American black walnut. So the other walnut that I've used occasionally is Queensland fruiting walnut, which which is a bit lighter, but because it's a fruiting tree, it tends to crack and split because it holds a lot of moisture. So the American black walnut tends not to do that. I don't know if it's grown in Australia or not, so for those of you who are in Australia here, so we just need to preserve the bits that we do have. Okay, so all of that's sorted. So what we're going to do is I'm going to end here today, so a little bit short on the time. I'm going to end here today because the only thing I can do with this now is get this glued together. But before I do that, there was one other thing that I had to do, and that's to tidy up all of the inside of the box. Now, there's not much point watching me doing sanding and so forth. So I'll do all the sanding. We'll glue it up in the next session. We'll get all the parts done, and I will have all the bits and pieces ready for the door. So I have to source some perspex, and I'll have to source some material for the frame of the door. That'll take me a little bit of time. I figured today, because we were doing some very intricate work, we would end up taking a bit longer than we have. We've got it done a little bit earlier, so we'll call it quits there, and we'll get started on and finish it off next week. So people, if you, I'll just flick over to my other camera. Pammy can get back to her computer. So if you have any questions about what we've been doing today, please flip us a question.
Is it going to be a a single door on the big box?
Yes, single door on the big box is what we're going to play with. Just a couple of things. Don't forget your thumbs up, guys. A little bit of encouragement goes a long way. And if you're new to our site, please subscribe, and we'll give you a note every Sunday and let you know when we're going to pop in. And you can watch the rest of the show. So we've still got a little bit of ways to go. Crook voice tonight, this morning. So please take care, everybody. I hope the sound was better this week. So if you're having problems with it last week, I had a little bit of a play with it and I managed to be able to get a couple of issues sorted. It's amazing what you can learn when you have a look, and yeah. Anyhow, have a good week, everybody, and I will see you all next Sunday.